is getting scanned.
Wandered, yeah. Here you go. I like the report from Anastasia on the social media the other day that Magnus wasn't recognized and he couldn't clear through security.
He wasn't wearing the badge.
And
right?
didn't have the
Yeah,
badge
he wasn't
with him.
wearing the badge. His standard pickup line, "Hi, I'm Magnus Carlsen," didn't work. I mean,
They needed proof.
right. As you see, Leonard Otis, our official photographer, and I
We'll
think
have
we have a
ceremonial first move.
it's Wesley So
E4.
doing it. E2, E4. Nice. I'm not sure if that was the Superbet.
I'm not sure if that was, yes.
Yeah.
We didn't get the name.
In reply. By the way,
No worries, as Wesley So
And the round begins.
and Magnus Carlsen starting round 2.
Ooh,
Ooh, Scandinavian.
was not expecting that.
Okay. So we
Has
have.
Magnus played Scandinavian recently?
I've seen him play it in Blitz, but yeah, it's a rarity on the top. But when you want to surprise your opponent, it's one of those things that when you're not completely ready, like Wesley is so ready for E4, E5, Berlin or Italian. When you're not completely ready to meet a Scandinavian, it can be a little bit awkward. Bishop B4, okay, not C7, C6.
Do you think Wesley remembers the theory in Scandinavian?
I do. I just think that
These guys do
he's
check everything all the time.
He's so incredibly well prepared, and just the fact that he played D4, D5 so quickly, so certainly, just as you were mentioning, Var, he's got a natural touch.
Absolutely, and this is still lots of theory here, guys. I have about 50 games in a database here,
50.
and
Wow.
I can tell Wesley knows this. So after the move D5, Black has two options: can take on D5, he takes D5, or play the move Knight D7. So this is what he is thinking, and the White is actually a little bit.
Okay, the move
Magnus
D5
is
is just,
thinking.
just
It surprised Magnus. Yeah.
put the Magnus in the freeze there. Yeah.
Magnus down on time, so that's looking good for Wesley so far.
Exactly. Instead of the move Bishop B4, I'm a little bit more familiar with C7, C6 earlier, just to kind
To
of.
avoid ideas like D5.
Yes, exactly.
That's the main move, Yasser. Main move.
Yeah, that. So here, this move D5 has really put Magnus on the back foot again. Castles, Knight D4. It's easy to see that this Bishop on C3 is eyeballing potential Bishop F6 and G7 pawn. Like it or not, I'm thinking Knight D7 is box, or what we would call
Waited.
forced. And quickly, no Knight D4, but quickly by Wesley, a capture. I guess Wesley is contemplating Queen E2.
And creating a weak pawn on E6.
Exactly. Before we win him, we gotta weaken him.
Never heard that before.
Queen
I'll remember
E2. Queen E2. Still theory, Var?
Still theory, but only 6 games played in a database here, and
Statistically, White should be doing well.
I see lots of draws in this position.
He took.
Queen E2 played 2 times, and also Bishop takes E6 4 times.
Wow, Bishop E6 was more popular. I thought Queen E2 was automatic. He did take on E6, and they're going into a 3 versus 3. Let's see.
Is White, the way Wesley took on E6, he seems to be sure that White's going to be better in the endgame, but is it really that big of an advantage? Bishop
I would
versus
say a lot more minor advantage than he did if he had played Queen E2 immediately, but who knows? Again, Wesley, on the clock at least,
On the
is
clock, he
saying
has an
my
advantage."
preparation is outstanding. What about yours?
And Magnus Castle's long?
Okay,
Nice.
I'm thinking,
Very close to completely equal.
well, maybe the question is, like if I play Rook D1, anticipating check
Okay.
and dropping back with the king, maybe this bishop is really putting a considerable pressure, and there we go. He didn't play Rook to D1, he played Rook to E1, looking to drop back with his king and not getting his rook
Actually, right now Magnus could play knight d5, allow bishop g7 and go rook g8.
Yes. Knight
So that way he
d5.
can free his knight right now.
Exactly. That, and this may be that key moment that he needs. Maybe rook e1 a little inexact. Maybe rook d1 to avoid
To avoid it.
what you just said. But okay, this is. I feel Var that we're getting into a critical moment, and we just don't want to be in a long-term situation where the bishop is eyeing. Is there a freeing chance with knight d5 because he's done it?
95 is definitely a possible move here. If you had just played rook h8, king f1, white is just better there. It's just a little bit annoying because you're going to have problems moving your knight from f6, and also you have to watch out for ideas like knight g5 at some point, so probably you have to play the move h6, and you're really tied up there, and so just passive here. Most likely you're probably going to hold if you don't make any big mistakes, but this is more concrete here. And now bishop g7 needs to be played, otherwise you don't have anything, so rook h g8. And now is a critical move, bishop h6, because you really need to cover the f4 square.
Right. Inviting rook takes g2, but it's not like the rook is doing terrible, terrible things. Rook takes g2 with the bishop on h6. It can play rook d1 and king f1, and the bishop might play t's on g5. Sorry, Nazi.
Yeah, I think it's just easier to play with the bishop,
Yes.
in blitz especially.
Right.
But like Var said, with the accurate play, of course, it should be very close to equal. And Wesley doesn't take. He goes bishop d4.
I find that move surprising. I thought bishop g7 was very, very compelling. Bishop d4.
Now you need
Now-
f6 right
now
away.
you can
Just
play
shut down the
f6.
bishop.
And f6 does two things, actually. It does shut down the bishop, but it also shuts down the knight.
He played f6.
And you mentioned knight g5 it could have been awkward a move or two ago. That I don't know, guys, but
And
that
now
feels
c5
like,
also. c5 coming up, guys. Where is the
Yeah.
bishop going to go now?
Yeah, I think it's king f1, c5, maybe c4, maybe bishop e3. This feels like it's beginning to look too drawish. What was our backup game?
Dudagiri, yes.
Gary? Just get an eye on that, if you don't mind, Bar, and tell me if it's worth stealing away or not.
MBL Rapid game is very
Let's stay on
exciting.
this one for a little bit more. The other
Okay.
game is also looks kind of equal,
Dry.
dry, symmetrical. So let's see if we'll have some more development here. So b3 played by Wesley is trying to secure that b2 square for the bishop after the move c5.
Yeah. By the way, I feel like commentators curse because just a moment ago, Nancy, you said, "Hey, are we ever going to see a round where all 5 games are drawn?" And I go, "No, next round, you know." C5, bishop b2, knight b8. The knight on d7 was no great shakes, I must say. I do like the idea of opening up the rook and bringing the knight to a little bit more freer square, if I can use that term. C5, c4, possibility. Because if you do take knight to d6 and recapturing the pawn, c5, c4 has got my attention. How about you? See, how would you like to
I
play?
think black is completely fine.
Okay.
Because after f6, I think white's advantage, that was the better bishop,
Yep.
is gone. Because bishop is not better than black's knights anymore, in my opinion. So I think Wesley shouldn't take risks here.
Maybe shut it down. Personally, I do like knight d2.
Oh, as I said, Wesley shouldn't take
Take
risks.
risks.
He goes g4.
Well, you did say, I mean, come on, you did say your bishop was getting shut down. So the idea of g4, g5, I think a lot of people would find that compelling. Just grabbing some space. I did like knight d2, possibly to reroute the knight to e4. The knight on f3, for me,
I
for
believe
a little passive.
The main reason Wesley's putting pressure with g4 is because Magnus is down to 30 seconds.
Hello.
And Wesley has 2 minutes. So
Hello, that's
why
significant.
Wesley feels like he has a chance now.
Far that I mean, you said it yourself. You've played a lot, if not hundreds, of games with Wesley, and you know when he's ahead on time, he's a monster.
Absolutely, yes. And his time management is excellent here. He's got nearly 2 minutes versus 30 seconds for Magnus. And, you know, now he's got this g5 idea that it's still annoying because he wants to open up the diagonal. And h6 is not going to solve all the problems. Still, he can play the move h4 there. So now Magnus goes king
King
d7.
d7. By the way, I found the move rook D1 to E1 to be ambitious. Probably the best move to begin with, but also a move that says, I want to keep pieces on the board, I want to play for a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Now
like
G5
that.
is a good move as well. Now creating the weakness
And
on
there you see
F6.
it, captures. The knight on F3 needs a better square immediately.
No,
Love
maybe
this
I was
move. Knight,
completely wrong about White's position.
Big advantage for White, guys.
Yeah, Wesley
then-
squeezed out a very nice advantage out of that, what I thought was very equal position.
agreed, and you don't see Magnus going down to 5 seconds on the clock.
Wow.
Ooh, seven
If
seconds.
Wesley keeps playing in this style, I think he has a very good chance of converting this.
Oh, and I love this move, knight back to F3. I was arguing that the pawn on F6 was freezing the knight. Now that the pawn is on F5, look at this. It's just probing.
Wait, is there a rook d1 check now and knight e6?
Love it. Immediate knight e6 as well.
And rook,
But
where does the rook go? F7?
oh, I say rook d1 check
Right.
first, drive the king, then knight.
Then
I
knight
like it. He's done it. He's from your lips to the chessboard.
Black's
Knight
position
e6.
is very impressive.
Oh,
Oh,
give me the what a pawn grubber.
it does
Boy.
allow knight d4, however.
Okay, that is counterplay. Oh darn it, that is counterplay.
Magnus loves counterplay. He does have 6 seconds on the clock, and Wesley
That's
has
a
1
pass
minute.
pawn. Passers must be pushed. Oh, knight f7 will run into rook h7. Was h4 mistimed bar?
I think it's fine now. He had to move knight F7 there. That would have been very strong. But here,
Can he
He's
pick up the
winning the
d-pawn
d4
with knight
pawn.
f3?
Yes.
Yes.
Knight
yes,
F3,
he can
rook
pick up and he'll be up a pawn, and really good winning chances for Wesley here.
And here we go. We're
We
going to
had a-
be in a knight ending.
I don't think
Where the
Magnus should
weakness-
exchange.
Oh my gosh, I agree with you. I don't think Magnus should have changed. But d3 was a good move.
Right.
Before White was ready to play king d2 to d3 takes pawn
Very
c4.
Not separating his pawns.
Oh, and look at it. Oh,
I
this
think
should
this
be
is
winning.
Completely winning.
Completely
Wow,
winning
Wesley.
even.
My pick.
Now just b4 and then pick up the second.
And by the way, if Wesley were to win this game,
Yes.
he's beating an in-form Magnus. I mean,
Right. I
it's
was
not
just gonna say that to defeat Magnus when he's in form, that's
right. That is really, really impressive. Knight e2.
still not over, but
The knight is
still
going
have
to be coming.
careful.
Knight to c3. I was about to say knight c3 to d5 was playing itself, but I remember I was in Oslo for the Fischer Random World Championship, and Wesley just clobbered Magnus in the final championship match, and it reminds me of the form that Wesley held. King g5, and I think Magnus is going to toss him the towel really soon.
wow. And Wesley just outplayed Magnus completely.
That's exactly right. He really did. There's just no other way of putting it.
We hear that Kiri has drawn his game against Duda.
And as soon as this is finished, we'll go to a game that MVL.
And MVL won his game against Rich Report.
Talk about a comeback. I mean,
So it wasn't commentator's curse. We didn't get 5 draws.
and look at that.
Wow.
Magnus,
What a
boy.
game by Wesley.
that was really one-sided, and Magnus knows Wesley just played an incredibly good game. Kept it